I feel like I have a long experience with pain that most likely started with a car accident. About 6 weeks after my dad died, I was in a car accident and I got whiplash. And, sort of healed from that, but it was just, one of those background pains. And then, fast forward a few years and I ended up with frozen shoulder on the left side, which took a long time to diagnose for one, and then a long time to recover from with varying modalities. So as you can imagine, there was a lot of weakness that happened from not using that part of the body and then just trying to launch back into healing. So I was on this repeated cycle of I'm doing okay. Oh, I'm in a pain cycle again. And so it was just ongoing to the point where most people in my life were like, oh, Shannon, how's your shoulder? Like it was just a huge part of who I was based around, did I have mobility? Was I in pain? And I really didn't, fully understand it. I was working with PT, I was working with chiropractor, and I would get tiny bits of information, but never enough to get full pain relief. There's three things that stand out for me. The first was to meet with you, to tell a little bit of my story, and then to watch you look at my body and name things that were going on that I hadn't even told you about, because part of my story all the way back to some hip issues. And so for you to notice the pelvis out of line, and that is probably due to this weakness. And so right there, that's where I was like, oh, this is different, because here is someone I'm meeting through a computer screen who's already named and noticed all of my weak areas, not just the ones I brought to the consultation, but the ones that I kind of forgot about because, it's easy to forget that the whole body is connected. So that was, starting right there was you noticing what was going on and naming how it's all interconnected. And then the second piece that stood out for me was you saying to me, like, because I was talking about, I just pushed through. And you were like, well, then you're teaching your body to live in an inflammation cycle. And I think my head exploded at that point, because I had thought that I was somehow going to push through. And at some point in some magical thing, I was going to get relief. And I'd never once thought that I was training my body to keep doing what it was doing. So you have named those two things, right? And then you inserted, just in that first consultation, ways that I could relieve the pain, and you identified how I could get out of the pain cycle. You didn't promise me that tomorrow I would wake up pain-free, but you did promise me that you could help educate me on how to build my strength up so that I could be healed if I worked with these exercises. And so for me, again, it was like not building a reliance on you to be the person who was healing me, but you were educating me on how I can be in charge of my healing with your support. There was the pieces of, and I don't know if I'm gonna get the words right, but in the beginning, what it was like was doing the body work to help me release the tension of what was harming or was too tight before moving into the exercises. So it was like pulling it back to the starting point. And it was like, we're gonna move at the pace that my body is at. So I use this when I talk about parenting. You met me where I was and we moved from there. Now I feel like I have access to this information where I can use these building blocks based on where my body's at. Like, okay, so I'm having some knee pain today. Oh, I know where to start. I have to start with releasing the muscles here and here, and then get my glutes into the game before I go hiking the hill by doing these bridge exercises. So again, like I was saying before, it was like working with you is getting building blocks on pain relief through body work, exercise information to build the strength, and a format that was easily accessible and not overwhelming. You know, so many times it's like you need to find, you know, an hour in your day. But I found with this program, I didn't have to find an hour in my day. All I had to do was I could do 15 minutes of body work while I was, you know, like watching a YouTube video in the morning, or at the end of the day when I wanted to sit on the couch and watch TV. I could do my body work exercises while I was doing that. So it wasn't, you weren't requesting a huge chunk of my time. It is a piece of hope, right? That you're like, okay, because before I'm like, oh, am I going to be able to get, especially now with COVID, can I get a chiropractic appointment? Oh my God, am I going to have to live with this pain for 3 weeks? I don't ever wake up thinking I have to live with this for a long extent of time. So for me, the biggest results are more pain-free days than I've had in years. And then the next result is an extended time period between what I would call flare-ups. And so before, it was like I said, I was going from appointment to appointment. So if I got 2 weeks, I was like, sweet, I only have to go to the chiropractor twice this month. Whereas I'm like, you know, if I wake up and I'm like, oh, I'm in pain, I couldn't remember the last time I woke up in pain. It had been that long, right? Whereas before it was living, you know, a day-to-day awareness of pain. And now being in pain is unusual to me. It's not my normal.